Hi there. I'm watching Shaw TV, Channel 4, Saturday morning, and I'm just wondering, has your TV program, Channel 4, been hijacked by some crazed political organization? Freedom for All? I mean, this is not this is kind of strange, and I'm just wondering why you've got this Freedom for All thing on TV, public programming. It's really, really strange. Get it off the airline. It's weird. Bye.
I'm a chemtrail guy, and I'll tell you why. Look up in the sky, white streaks flying by. Got the time lapse so I can capture the blast. Here's the proof for the confused noobs. You want a pair of puppets, it's up high in the sky. It's all water vapor, why would they lie? Little ice crystals hanging out cause it's dry. Dissipate slow so they don't realize. Living in a fog like a bump on a log. Don't you worry, spray text on the dog. Keep your mind closed, not loose on a tether. Which one you like, which proof is better? Dennis Kucinich made a mention. In-house resolution 2977. BC Weather Modification Act got repealed. Kevin Falcone didn't want to keep it real. Modification ain't getting old in Alberta. Seeing clouds you never heard of. The UN in Nagoya, Japan. In 2010, they say they put it to an end. What keeps us down in the mainstream mind? Social ridicule.
Good evening. How are we doing out there? Well, this is Freedom Free for All, and we're here tonight, and we have Paul Chauvin and Jeff Fortin and Maureen Weeres joining us, and they're from CanadaGrandJury.ca. Now, this is the third of a three-part series, and we're going to discuss the difference in between de jure government and de facto government. Do we know what these are? Do we know what the differences are? Do we know how it works? And why would we want a grand jury in the first place? What would necessitate this sort of thing? These are the sort of questions that will be asked tonight. And as I said, this is one of three, and Paul Stein, who is my co-host here, has actually participated in the two previous interviews. And so, Paul, what had we covered previously?
Yeah, well, Brad, we had Jeff on about almost 6 months ago, and in that first video, we kind of introduced the idea of what a grand jury was, because Canada hasn't really seen a grand jury for a long time. We talked about what a de jure government versus a de facto government, so we'll rehash that a little bit tonight. We also discussed in the second version, or the second video, we introduced more of the people that are involved in this movement to create a de jure government. We met the King of Canada, which is Denis. He was on the show. We had a lot of other people, including lieutenant governors. It might sound strange to a lot of people, but if you're new to this information, if you're new into the corporate fiction-hood of what's going on in the world, you'll see that there's a lot of deception in government. And in that deception, things have not taken place legally in order to get the legal government. So therefore, we currently in Canada today have a de facto government. We're going to talk a lot more about that tonight with Jeff and Paul. And first and foremost, Brad, I want to welcome you back to the show. If you watched the show before, Brad was one of the first four that created Freedom Free for All. And this is a little token of our appreciation. We're going to give you a Freedom Free for All t-shirt, Brad. And, you can go ahead and put this on at any time. And I just want to give that to you. And if you're watching the show right now, you can go to our store at freedomfreeforall.com, order your shirts online. You can also get mugs, Freedom mugs. We don't have them in the studio here because Josh kept them with him. He took it from the studio. He's a thief like that. But anyways, we've got mugs, we got T-shirts. You can support the show because that's how we flourish. That's how we get this done, is by your donations, by getting people to buy this, to buy into the idea of freedom. Because freedom is truly in your hands. It is you and only you that can create the freedom. You can't ask for it. It's not outside of you. It's only within you. And tonight we're going to have a chat with Paul and Jeff from CanadaGrandJury.ca about what freedom of the future looks like. So that's what we're doing here today, Brad. That's who we've got on the show. And
okay. Well, great. Then we're going to just take a quick break here now that I got my shirt on. And
looks good, Brad.
I'm in the loop now.
Looks good.
And we'll be right back with Paul Chauvin and Jeff Fortin and Maureen Weeres, and we'll be back in just a moment.
Show your support for Freedom Free For All and independent media today at patreon.com/FFFA and at freedomfreeforall.com/donate.
There we go.
Okay, so we're back. So I was curious. I had a few questions for our members of grandjury.ca. What necessitates this sort of thing? Why would we need a grand jury? What are the problems that you're trying to solve with this? It's sort of a leading question because I kind of appreciate the answer. But why do we need this?
Maybe Jeff, you can answer that.
First of all, thank you very much for taking your time to get us back on your show for the third time. Last time we met was in December, so I'm happy to be here. Second thing about the CanadaGrandJury.ca website, I was the only one present on the website at the time. Paul, Maureen, and April, which are here on the line with me, joined in after the grand jury was disbanded. And to answer your question, we need grand jury to re-establish what has been brought with the British when they came to Canada, which means common law or natural law, as some people prefer to call it. Grand jury is a measure of protection. It is actually the sword and the shield of the people against tyranny. We figured out with a strange case, I'll skip over that part because it's much too long to explain here and it's all on my channel, but a hard case of working accident, and we figured out back then, it was in Quebec, that this happened, that we couldn't get justice in front of their commercial court, which someone preferred to call it Admiralty Court. So we cut short to the crap. In other words, we convened 23 good-willing citizens who had time to spend, because it lasted 3 different weekends during the month of September and October 2015. So these people, they got together and they gave us a judgment in common law, and we used that judgment afterward to go through and crush the Supreme Court within 30 days. And we got a default judgment following that judgment, but better than that, in between the Supreme Court and the grand jury, the accused party, which was back then CSST, which is a corporation in Quebec, which pose as government, but they are not government at all. They're really private. We digged into that. They've not admit the validity of our grand jury, but the beauty of it is we've ordered a couple of things out from there. One was for them to fold to the law and do not discuss about it. We won $50,000 worth of letter of change. That was our first win. Second, we've ordered the back then, he's no Minister of Labor, but we've ordered the so-called Minister of Labor to get the hell out of there, which he did 2 months after the grand jury. And what was the third thing then? We ordered them to shut the door of the corporation itself because they were too much corrupted. The regime was going on for 42 years. So CSS.
Which corporation was that?
What's that?
What was that corporation that you got to shut the door on there?
CSST stands for Commission de la Santé Sécurité au Travail. They shut their door on the January 1st, 2016, and they replaced it by CNESST, which should stand for whatever they stand for, Normes and Éthique du Travail. So the regime was going on 42 years. 2 months after the grand jury, they shut their door, and the following morning, they just opened under a new banner. So these are the direct win that we've got for the case I was prosecuting. Of course, because we were doing a grand jury, I felt the urgency to get other people involved. So we presented 6 other cases in front of the grand jury to various degrees. Some add some sort of a win if they use the judgment that we've got out of there. Some people will claim that they got nothing out of it. But the most important part is that someone came to the grand jury. His name is Jean-François Dubois. He had a witness, which was Michel Lebrun. That witness was a former Quebec Bar Association lawyer. So he presented to us a constitutional case. And because of him coming there and presenting this part at the grand jury, well, we now stand where we stand today. So let me just be real clear. Our grand jury was born, he has lived and died in 2015. From that point on, all that came out from that was just all of what I've stated, plus one more thing. Since we could not have justice in Quebec, especially, there's no possible justice. The prosecutor that were there at the grand jury got the power of a judge in the equivalent of the Republic of France in criminal matter. And after the grand jury, with the other prosecutor, which none are here tonight except for me, we did summary conviction for the government of Quebec mainly, but all and every other part of the government who pose as government when they are not. So this is where, to answer the other part of your question, we make the difference between the de facto and the de jure government. We easily figure out that there were no de jure government, which can be pronounced in English as de jure, if you prefer. We figured out everything's a corporation, and when you dig into it, it's really clear. You type Canada, the Security Exchange Commission, and the address that pops out is 501 Pennsylvania Avenue in Washington, D.C. So how can the headquarters of Canada be in a foreign capital? Right. And besides, there's a problem in the United States, but I'll skip over that.
So it seems
for
to
your
me
next
the
question.
value of this is trying to enable people to take back their government into their own hands.
This is where we stand now, yes.
Yes, but to excuse the accusation that it would be a tempest in a teapot, you have the influence of common law, do you not?
Exactly, yes. A grand jury is common law, and it did work to some extent, like I said. Some of the people never used the judgment, so they got nothing out of it, because in common law, it is the party who is able to show their case, who is at the same time the person in charge of executing the judgment. So if you get a judgment, let's say from the Supreme Court, and you do nothing with it, what do you expect? That the Supreme Court is going to go out, a judge going to go out to the guilty party and say, well, you're on? No, it is the winner of the case that needs to use this judgment.
What did you mean when you said?
Done.
What did you mean when you said you crushed the Supreme Court? What did you mean?
Oh, this was really funny. We knew when we brought a constitutional case through the Supreme Court that they didn't want to hear about it, because what happened in 1931 to Canada, the Supreme Court is Supreme Court of nothing, actually. They're a commercial court, right? So there's no common law possible, but they do still use the model of common law with their hearings. So I took the procedure from the Supreme Court. I've read through it, and I found out in there that if the opposition party, the accused party in our case, doesn't show up within 30 days, you can write a default judgment. And that's exactly what we did. So by the time our case went through the study of the government, sorry, not the government, of the Supreme Court, we knew they wouldn't hear it. So I prepared a default judgment.
Beautiful.
And that's how it worked, yes.
Well, that's all about being prepared. When you go to court, you got to be prepared. A lot of people go to court and they have no idea what... They just go to court and that's all they know. And they don't know the legal smoke bombs that come and poof. And then there's this legal smoke bomb and poof. Exactly. Like you said, nobody showed up. So you had a default judgment stored in store. So, Jeff, just to confirm, you're not a lawyer. Anybody on the grand jury, are they lawyers?
No. Actually, only ex-lawyer, retired Quebec Bar Association lawyer, was a witness. He was protected by the grand jury because we used the status of Rome, for which Canada has a signature on it. And we've used the statute of the International Court of Justice that comes with it. That comes with it, sorry. But yes, I was absolutely prepared to go through the Supreme Court. I was so prepared that the other people, because I was not alone, we had 4 parties showed up on our side at the Supreme Court. I told them very seriously. We were sitting at my kitchen table one night, and I said to them, they were desperate, I'll tell you that. And I said, don't expect any miracle from the Supreme Court. There's not going to be any hearing. And they were just like, why wouldn't be any hearing? I want my case to be heard at the Supreme Court. No, you don't, because they're gonna make you look like fool. It's gonna drag for years and years. It's gonna cost you $2.5 million to go through all the procedure. I'm gonna solve your problem within 30 days. And I was ready. So much so that last time I showed up at the Supreme Court, the RCMP were waiting for us down at the basement, and usually there's no RCMP officer there, only commissioner are there at the Supreme Court. And now there was an RCMP officer sitting just like that, and you're not going to go through. Well, I was prepared more than you can know. So I have my little minion here, and I'm going to send him upstairs. And that's exactly what happened. So
it sounds like you're serious about it, and it sounds like you've had some success.
Yes. I now, on my own, plus the other prosecutor at the Supreme Court judgment, I can shut the de facto government. So any corporation who opposes government, I just do like this, and you're off with your license. Why? Because the government itself, the Corporation of Canada, is nothing but a de facto corporation. It's actually a sole corporation, which manager is the Governor General, who pose as Governor General, because she's no Governor General of anything. It's just a corporation. So corporation have license. We just tear them out and tear them off, and we go about our business. But if we do
you mentioned Statute of Rome. Is that correct?
Yes.
And what does that mean? What do you mean by that?
This is the International Court of Justice. So in other words, we had two sides of our grand jury, one civil claim and one criminal cause also. So we presented both at the grand jury because in Canada, grand jury have both power. Mainly right now, especially in the United States, they only use grand jury for mainly criminal cause. But there are also civilian cases that went, and this is historical in Canada. So we've used that. We've used the best that we could about common law. And when you can prove a probable cause, you've got a criminal case. When you can prove a prejudice, you've got a civilian case. So I didn't wait for justice to come my way from their corrupted system. I just sat my own court, and it's
well. It sounds like you've done something right. It sounds like you've done something right, because one of our articles that we've got on the show here tonight in the lists down below in the YouTube show and the YouTube links is COMER, Committee on Monetary and Economic Reform, and it's from comer.org. Now, if you don't know who COMER is, it was a group of individuals that basically took the Supreme Court. Yeah, Rocco Galati was the lawyer that represented the group. They took
the Committee on Monetary and Economic Reform.
Yeah, Committee on Economic and Monetary and Economic Reform.
That's right.
Anyways, this article goes in the depths of how they kind of brought it to the Supreme Court, and they lost. So, Jeff, why did they lose?
Because the Supreme Court has no legal standing whatsoever. So when they're opposed with a constitutional issue, they're doomed. Each time they're going to hear, and it's the same thing that I was expecting in our case, because the opposed party was the Quebec Bar Association. I think we summoned something like 30 opponents. No one showed up. I'll tell you, look, I think I have it here, the judgment. Here it is. I don't know if you can see it. Supreme Court of Canada. This is the official case. There may be a little... see there at the top, it's in French.
Yeah.
But I told you it happened in French. And so if I go through the page let me find it, because it may be a little far into it. I haven't opened it in a while. They're going to say to you that they rejected our case. But this happened after the 30th day. So it was too late. Even the Supreme Court got caught with their pants down. So here's the full case, right? This is our full case that we presented, plus 11 boxes of a document at the Supreme Court. So let me just go through the page. The people that were involved on our side was Angèle Prince, Paul Leblanc, Denis Paiement, myself, and the grand jury. So we represented 5 parties in our request. And the opponent, the summoned people, it starts here. I'll show you, it's a little deep, a little small, but all these people are individual, and I'll go through the page, I'll flip the page. So the first one is mainly us. So all the people that you see here, it's very small, but I can provide the document if you need it. All the people that you see here, sorry, I'll show it that way, it's going to be much better.
Is that
all the people
reasons
that
for
you
judgment,
see here,
or what is that?
All the people that you see here.
How many people would that be approximately?
Probably 300. No one showed up. No one. So it's 8
Well,
pages
I found it
total.
interesting. I was listening to an interview with Paul Chauvin, and he was mentioning the idea that the Comer case of Comer versus Bank of Canada basically proves that you're not going to get justice out of that system,
Exactly.
and which it points to the necessity of creating a grand jury,
Yes.
thus bringing the power back into the people's hands. Because we
Exactly.
know through experience, I mean, when you go through all the motions, when you dot the I's, cross the T's, do everything, play by the rules, in their system, you get nothing.
Yes,
And that's
because
exactly what
the table
they got
is tilted.
in the
The
final
cards are
analysis.
marked. The dice are rigged. So there's no way of winning anything in their court. No way. Especially if you get a lawyer. They
Right.
play along. They play
Right,
ball game.
and
They
it
sold
costs-
you before you got there.
It cost an outrageous amount of money to even get into this sort of a squabble. And for what? And this is part of the control mechanism. So this points to the necessity of circumventing that whole corrupt system and establishing a jury.
Yes, a grand jury. If you want justice, you better get your own court, because all they do is commercial. There's nothing else to it. Of course,
I mean,
if you are a lawyer, you're doomed to begin with.
right?
He plays game.
Right. Rocco Galati was a very noble. He's taken up a lot of rights cases to court, and he's well versed in the whole protocol of legalese, and played it by the rules, absolutely. Now, what we have to glean from these experiences, the knowledge of the experience, and what we glean from this is that if you want a just system, you have to have the people of the nation assessing the justice, and not some corporate entity such as the Supreme Court of Canada.
I'll say amen to that, sir. That's indeed how it works. Unless you're involved in a commercial case. So let's pretend I am Canadian Tire and you are, I don't know, Sears Canada. This is where we need to go. Hire a lawyer, go through a commercial court. That's the right place to be if you're involved in commerce. But in our case, it was a human who was able to show his prejudice. So if there's a human involved, and in criminal matter, most of the time with homicide case,
Yes, we have to circumvent this corrupt kangaroo court system.
yes,
and bring it into a common law court system.
So we've also got other people on the line here. We've got Paul Chauvin, we've got Maureen Weeres, and we've got April Cymbalisty.
Yes.
Do you want to introduce them and
being
just so that they can be part of the show here?
People.
I'm not sure he heard you.
Paul or Jeff, do you want to introduce who's on the line there?
Yes, I've got people that I've met throughout this adventure of setting up a de jure government that came after the Supreme Court. It's not related with the grand jury, so people of quality that I'd like to introduce to you now. I've got Paul Chauvin from Ontario. Hello, Paul. If you would like to uncut your microphone and say hi to the people of Canada. Oh, by the way, hi to the people of Canada. I forgot to say that.
Hi to the people of Canada, too.
Next, we've got Maureen Weeres. Paul is from Ontario, by the way. We've got Maureen Weeres from Alberta. Maureen, if you'd like to uncut your microphone and say hi to the people of Canada.
Hello, everybody. From Alberta, but enjoying the sunny Victoria weather right now.
Lovely city. I was there for a long time. And last but not least, I would like to introduce Miss April Cymbalisty. She is from Saskatchewan. Good evening, April. Nice to speak
Hello,
to you again.
everyone.
So my question to each three that just got introduced, if you could take a couple seconds and maybe start with Paul, since he was the first to introduce. You're apparently the Lieutenant Governor under the de jure Canada government. Paul, why do you do this? Why are you part of this? Why are you so active on Facebook? Why do you care so much?
Because it needed to be done. I seen it as a job that needed to be done. Somebody needed to do it. I didn't see anybody else lining up to do it. And I was asked, and I accepted. It took me a while to accept, but we discussed it, and yeah, I accepted it finally.
So, Paul, we probably don't need a permit to do this. So, what is it that we do need? What do we need to pull this off?
There's nothing, but he wasn't really a criminal lawyer, but he said he didn't see anything wrong with what I was doing.
They don't have a monopoly over justice. That's all you need to know. Justice is in everybody's hand, just like freedom.
Absolutely.
So
I need to grab it.
Step by step, how would we put something like this together?
Well, we're trying to get some people to get together and do this. It's just a matter of people getting together. Anyone can be involved in whatever. There's all kinds of jobs that need to be filled, and it's up to we, the people, to do this. It was always left up to we, the people, to do this. They just never told us it was. That we had to do it.
Yeah, we can't abdicate that, because that's what we have today. Is we abdicated our freedom, our liberty, our responsibility, and for that we're under chains. So maybe let's move on to Maureen. Maureen, you've obviously connected with Jeff and Paul through Facebook or through any of your form of activism. Why do you do this? Why do you want to be part of this grand jury?
Well, I think the more awake you are, the more you understand that what the government has fed to us is not actually true. And when you do your digging and you look through historical documents, you can easily see that Canada was never confederated. All the provinces are sovereign and independent. And there's so much more that the government, is not telling us. And with the shape that our government and our country is in right now, somebody has to stand up. And I think that I feel strongly enough about it that here I am.
Well, I honor you for doing what you're doing and connecting and making it happen. How long have you known what you know and say, quote unquote, being awake? And how did you connect with Paul and Jeff in this? Did you just find them out of the blue, or did you go to their website? Or
well, I've been doing a lot of research probably for about 3 years, and it wasn't until December that we connected, and that was through the start of the Yellow Vest movement. So I went to my first rally in a town in Saskatchewan and got connected that way, got introduced to Jeff, and we've become fast friends, all of us, and sharing information back and forth.
Well, if you're a friend of Jeff's, then you're a friend of ours, and you're an ambassador to Freedom Free for All. So we've also got April on the line there. April, we met you, and let us know a little bit about you and why you want to do this, why you want to be part of a grand jury, and why you want to make such big changes in Canada.
A lot like what Maureen has said, being awake, knowing some of the things that are going on and in regards to the Constitution and what makes it de facto government because they're not following it. On a personal level, things that have happened to me that I know that, like you said, can lawyers even do anything? I know they can't, and they just sit there and wait, and they're part of all of this, really, essentially. So for me, met Carl, a gentleman, during the Yellow Vest, and then got introduced to Jeff and just started reading and went, holy. So here I am, and I believe in it, and I really want to help change Canada.
That's good. That's good. I don't know you, but I would vote for you because I appreciate what you just said there for sure. And if you're watching the show right now, and if you've never done any legal research whatsoever, you got to understand that a lawyer first duty is to not you, the client, but to the oath that he's taken. His second duty is to the court. His third duty is to you, the client. So I can't remember who I was listening to. It was a podcast, but they talked about that. I can't remember the statistics. I'll just throw some out there. It was kind of crazy, but 86% of litigated cases that have representation of lawyers lose. But
86%.
Only 80%.
Wow.
But only 80% lose, or something like 70% loses if you're self-litigated or if you self-represent yourself. So you might as well just self-represent yourself, wing it, try and learn as much as you can,
and get something out of it for your money,
and save yourself 30 or 40 or 50,000 dollars, because you're going to lose.
Anyways, Paul. Each time I was dragged into court, so that's several times, probably 10 or 11 times in my life, I won 100% of my case. 100%. I self-represented.
Personally, whatever, represented, present, that's jargon. But at the end of the day, I've done that. I've gone to traffic court a million times, maybe not a million times, but a lot of times, and I've done some other stuff. I've won probably 95% self-litigating myself and just asking questions. But at the end of the day, people say, why do you do it, Paul? Why do you do it? And
Get an education.
It's an education. Yeah, it costs me money because I take some time off work, but I say investing in your rights, investing in knowledge that school and government doesn't teach you is the most vital thing in this post 9/11 New World Order government that we live in, full of deception. Again, the power rests in you, the freedom and the liberty rests in you. I've got a question from the chat.
Amen.
I've got a question from the chat. I'm going to direct it to you there, Jeff. Large Coffee says, what is the practical application of this favorable court judgment?
Well, like I said at the beginning, my friend, for which I was lead prosecutor, he got $250,000 worth of repair, letter of change for repair for his injury, his work injury. He got the big corporation, which was destroying pretty much everything they touch over 42 years, to shut their door, and of course they opened the following morning with a new banner. That does not concern us. And he got 20 of the Liberal MLA from Quebec, which are no MLA, they're a member of Legislative Assembly. No, they're a private corporation again, to quit the Liberal Party of Quebec. And indirectly, it probably cost a few lawyers their job, a few judges their job, especially Beverly McLaughlin, because when she quit, it was right after we went through the Supreme Court. Of course, they'll never admit that, but on the other side, where was our big win, was self-education, just like you said. That was the only intention I put into that grand jury in 2015. I said to everybody who was there, and everything is on my own channel, that if you can listen to 36 hours of French hearing, and that's exactly what I said to these people. I said, don't expect anything out of this grand jury. There was never not a grand jury in Quebec done in 100 years. I don't think at all, and I do not believe that they will listen to it. But to my surprise, we did win, because I was representing only one case. So everything else, which regards the 6 other cases that were presented, I have nothing to do with it. That's the beauty of a grand jury. I presented one case, everybody followed because it was there, and they presented their case, and to some extent, they got a win. They never used the judgment, so never got anything out of it. But I know I did use the judgment. I went to CSST with the judgment. I printed probably 13 copies, and I gave it to them. I think only the landmower man didn't receive a copy of our judgment. I even went so far as to stamp straight on their door. They were not happy about that. They sued me through criminal court for whatever. I think damaging a public office. But I went through that court and was laughing at them. I said, well, this is not public. And they said, well, we're not going to talk about that. Well, let's talk about it, because you're lying to me. So if you base your case on a lie, you're out. And that's exactly why the Supreme Court does not want to hear Rocco Galati as case, because they know he's right. Even if he's a lawyer, he's right. I mean, the Bank of Canada is absolutely not doing their job, which is a blessing in the end, because if the actual de facto government would be using the Bank of Canada, that'd be a problem. Now they have debt, unpayable debt, and they owe it to private banks. So I don't care about that. But if they did have unpayable debt to the Bank of Canada, we'd have a problem. But that's a blessing to me. So
that's interesting, because,
by the way, the Comer case taught me a lot of things.
Right. And on that note, Rocco Galati had gone through the whole process, and he had a few comments that he wanted to make in an interview. We have a couple of clips of that right here. Adam?
All right. So Machiavelli once said that, the people are most enslaved when they declare themselves to be free, right? That's certainly true here in North America, ever since we got our Constitution patriated, although there was Quebec got screwed in the back rooms, people have declared themselves to be free through a Constitution, and people just, they've let down their vigilance, and people think they're free here. And it's a delusion. It's a complete delusion. I am not partisan. I sued Chrétien governments more times than I have Harper's government. A lot of people misunderstand my cases in terms of personalizing them to me. It's not. I don't care which government it is. It's all governments. All, we have political parties that just have different football jersey colors. I mean, there's not much of a spectrum, right? So we got orange, we got red, and we have le bleu, not to be confused with Québécois bleu bleu. We got the conservatives. So that's it. So it doesn't matter to me which government it is. If they act unconstitutionally, they have to be made to account. Second of all, cases going to the Supreme Court of Canada are extremely expensive. It's a good thing you're sitting down. The average case, and my dear client can attest to, they're not being charged this, but the average case to go to the Supreme Court of Canada is $1.2 to $2 million from the ground up. Okay? Now, there's no way they're paying me that for this. But how many people have that kind of money to go to the Supreme Court, right? The 1%. That's why you see, that's right. That's why you, and so the other cases depend on the goodwill pro bono services of lawyers, if they know how to take the case up.
You almost did at the beginning.
So there you have it. I mean, Mr. Galati is demonstrating the futility of the system. It's very much a feudal system. If you don't have gargantuan amounts of capital to afford your way through the system, well, you're out. And of course, they know that, right? They know that. So that's just a just us system. It's just for us. It's just for us, the elite, to have that. Now, as Paul Chauvin had said, that this case proved, beyond any reasonable argument, that this de facto government is not something we can work with. We have to circumvent this sort of corruption, as Mr. Galati just described there. Paul?
So, to a lot of people that don't know what COMER is, let me just quickly, one of our links is the Canadian Dimension. .com, and it talks a little bit about the Bank of Canada should be reinstated. So go to that link, read that link. I'm going to paraphrase really quickly here. It says basically in 2011 lawsuit was filed. Rocco Galati represented COMER. The purpose was to restore the use of Bank of Canada to its original purpose by exercising its public statutory duty and responsibility. That purpose includes interest-making free loans to the municipality, provincial, federal governments for human capital expenditures, health, healthcare services, social services, and infrastructure services. I did an interview with Bill Abram quite a ways back. I think he passed away at least 5 years ago, but I was fortunate to do this interview with him, which he went to, I think, some monetary forum in Chicago, and he actually we put together with him, it was a slideshow of the introductory of how the Bank of Canada got created, who instated it, the years, everything. It was
and the
really,
extravagant
really
interest
thing.
that has just jettisoned us into this outrageous debt.
So the turning point here, I believe, is what Jeff is going to talk about here quickly about the refederation of Canada. One of their purposes. Jeff, what is that, and what do you plan on that? Jeff, you there?
Yes, I will uncut my microphone. That's going to be much better. It's a big thing, and I would prefer for this part, because Paul was onto it, since I don't want to be alone in this show, I would like him to answer that. He knows as much as I am, and he's got a much better English accent. So, Paul, if you would like to answer this question, please, I'll be happy to leave you with the answer.
We have to refederate Canada because it was never, after the Statute of Westminster of 1931, basically that's when Canada was decolonized from Great Britain, and the British North American Act basically ceased to exist from that point on, and we ended up with 10 sovereign states after that point. And now we have to basically refederate if we're going to have a one whole Canada again. As it is right now, basically we are separate states, and that's it.
And is that part of the goal of the grand jury?
Well, the grand jury is not. It's the de jure Canada is what we're kind of rebranded grand juries from.
Yeah,
and it's to do that is our goal is to get a constitution for Canada. You
Nice.
know, the de jure, legitimate and truly Canadian constitution for Canada.
Now, we're presently paying for a fraudulent national debt that shouldn't exist at all. And could not the grand jury, if you will, prosecute people for
Actually, I'll answer that very
defrauding the
quickly.
people
We
of
don't
Canada?
need to prosecute it. We can just repudiate it. Sorry, if someone wants to help me with this word. It's illegitimate. It's a corporation debt, so it's just the same thing as if McDonald's go bankrupt with a debt. Are we supposed to be responsible for it? No. You go there, you pay your burger, and that's their problem. So as soon as the de jure government is formed, they can be out with their own debt. It's not ours. And beside, they're bankrupted. So
Yeah.
forgive me if my ignorance, but Canada was never truly legally federated, because school taught me that they were federated.
nope. Actually, you're right. There is nothing legal, lawful, or constitutional since 1931. They have no right to be there. That's why we have de facto corporation. So we don't have Canada. It's sad,
Canada
but
Inc.
it's true.
Registered on the Washington D.C.'s.
Yeah, it's a business. It's nothing but a business. So
Wouldn't you
let's
say
get
that's
that joke done?
Isn't that
and,
like what all New World Order governments are, though? Aren't they like just cookie cutter
Yes.
franchises?
Okay.
Yes, they did that to every country. They did
Yeah.
that to every country. Even France today is a corporation that belongs to the Rothschild. That's why it's not working. There's no legal money. There's nothing legal actually. It's fiat currency. It's a lie all over. It's fraud. It's backstabbing, and it's no wonder and no surprise that when you get down to the people's level, that's all they've known all their life. They've been fed with fraud, lies, and all these stuff, and so that's why we're divided and conquered. That's all
Right.
people know. You'll see that on the common man in the street. They don't like their neighbor. They're going to backstab him any which way they can for 5 cents. 5 cents that's worth nothing.
Walk me through this. Walk me through this. Just extrapolating here a little bit. How could we move something like this from a tempest in a teapot sort of scenario to actually getting the government and the banks to cease and desist from extorting property from people and punishing them for not acquiescing to these outrageous interests being imposed on them by an illegal entity?
I think there's a two-level answer to that. When it comes to punishing them, I think it's a waste of time. We don't have time to put on 500 or 600 trials going back to 1931. I can't. And for the first part of the answer, and now I'm talking backward, it's weird. I think we just have to do, as Dean Clifford said when he was last on Freedom Free for All, and sorry for my language, but fuck them, let's do our own game. So let's create our own de jure government and not care about them. They didn't care about you, me, Paul, or April in the last 100 years. So why would we care about them? And beside, do upon other what you wish to be done upon you. So if you want to keep the same system going, let's put them at trial. Let's put them into jail. But where will we end up with that? We'll have to keep the freaking court going. We'll have to keep the freaking jail going. It's going to be more of the same. And personally, but this is only an opinion, but it's based on fact, where jail don't work. Otherwise, it would have been 2,500 years ago that we would have got rid of crime. It doesn't work. So let's just do our own game where people are, just like Paul said earlier, Paul Stein said, responsible for their action. We get common law court. When there's a homicide or a prejudice to a human, he gets in front of these court. He gets 10 people in the case of a criminal justice, 23 people in any other case, which is state level. And we solve the problem with that. But if we do have a de jure government, which is composed by and for the people, and even under this constitution, this is the Constitution of Canada, BNA Act, and the Charter of Rights and Freedom from Trudeau, I know it was written by them. I know that, but it comes from common law, and common law comes from the Magna Carta Libertatum, which is 800 years old. It did work in Britain for the longest time. They had freedom there. Of course, they subjugate the rest of the world, but that's of no concern. And we can work it out with common law or natural law, if you prefer, and get on with our business. What do I care putting Trudeau or Chrétien or even Harper in trial?
Well,
Fuck them.
see, you're a goal scorer and Brad is a goalie. So, Brad, you should be the head prosecutor of the de jure government that goes after those guys. We need a team of people
I do
that
think
does
that if a person commits an act against another person, like extortion or anything like that, the fact that he did it in the name of the state should have no bearing on the case whatsoever. If you come into a man's house, I don't care if you had a warrant from a criminal organization, you're still a criminal coming into a man's house.
Yep.
If you take his property, and therefore I see that as a potential role for the grand jury, is to charge people with extortion, with theft, with break-in and entry.
Exactly.
And that's what I was kicking at, is like, how do we, walk me through this step by step? How do we get to that point where we're convicting people for criminal behavior?
Well, I'll cut short to that question because they've already been convicted by me. We went through the Supreme Court, and I do have the power from the Supreme Court default judgment, which is 2 years old now. Nobody has contested me. They cannot do that. I have the power to shut every corporation who opposes government. Who do you want to be seen shut tonight? You want me to just lift my hand and say, the RCMP, you're out? I can do that. No worries. I got the judgment here. Look, it's here, and it's stamped by the Supreme Court. It's there.
Well, you showed the BNA Act, and it kind of goes into what Organic Mechanic, somebody in our chat, has asked. He said, so does the BNA Act still exist, and is it the top law in Canada if it does exist?
It's not valid. It's never been signed properly by the province. It's an unsigned contract.
So it's just sitting there, just doing nothing.
Yes, actually, this may sound weird, but today we're in 1867, October 1867. If you want to know the truth, we're not in 2019. I know who I am. I know where I stand in time and place. I know I live in British Columbia. But in fact, when it comes to the Constitution, we are in 1867. It was never signed properly. And let me put an emphasis on that word, properly. It does exist. I mean, the document's here, but they don't abide by it, and especially not in a former province like Quebec. Yeah, and that's how my case started, right? That's how I got into constitutional law.
We've got Bill Gadou on. He's also on the chat. He says, if we the people were to lose in court, it would prove alone our justice system is also a de facto. We've got Sweetie Squad. She says 32 states that the Constitution applies to government, not man. 52 states that it is the supreme law.
That's exactly why I say that we need to sign a de jure government around this bill. I imagine that for a moment. If I was to write my own constitution and pretend it's much better than this one, because that's an easy job to do. People may think it's not easy to write a constitution, but it's easy. It doesn't need to be complicated, but she's actually entirely right. In the Charter of Freedom and Rights, if you take Article 52, 32, and 2 altogether, it does prove that it only applies to them. And these 3 articles alone are good for the people. Yes, it is for them to obey to it, but it does belong to the people. And it's up to you, the people, just like I did, say, hey, who are you? You pretend to be a state party? All right, Article 52, 32, and 2 and says, I want no business to have to do with you. You're going to obey or else. I've done that several times in court. I said to the judge, "You're going to do your job. You're going to do your job. Oh, I don't work for you. Well, you do work for me. You're a public servant. I'm the master.
And when you
I
say
get into
or
court,
else,
I'm the boss.
when you
When
say
I get
or
a
else,
lawyer,
yeah,
just like Brad said, I'm the third in line.
yeah. And when you say or else, that means or Brad, right?
Or Brad, yes. But I've said to judge straight in their face, I'm going to arrest you for treason. You better fucking sit down from your whatever pedestal that you're sitting on. Get down from your bench there. I'm the boss here. You're my servant.
Wow.
Obey.
I'd like to
I
see
said
that
that
one.
to several lawyers. I'm the crown prosecutor. You're not anybody. Get off your dream wherever you live on. Facts are facts.
So
obey to me.
So with this creating a de jure government, now there's two parts to this question. If you create we have the Bank of Canada, and then we also have this other bank called the Canada Infrastructure Bank, the CIB, which Trudeau just created a couple of years ago. The article that I'm looking at right now is in the links down below. If you're joining, we're talking to Paul Chauvin and Jeff Fortin. We're also speaking. We're also
Maureen Weeres.
Maureen
Weeres,
and
we're speaking with April Cymbalisty. Did I say that right? Cymbalisty. What is, I guess, Jeff or anybody else on the this Bank of Infrastructure Bank, would it continue? Or would it be gone? It seems like they're using that bank instead of the Bank of Canada.
We don't need it.
We don't need it at
We
all.
absolutely don't need it. Bank of Canada, yes.
It's redundant, really. That's all we need is a Bank of Canada.
The CIB is not necessarily meant for serving the people, the infrastructure. It's more for private SNC Lavalin kind of scandals, right?
Yeah, it was created, I think, to facilitate the P3s, like the public and private partnerships, to be able to sell off our Canadian assets, like our infrastructure and social services programs, even natural resources. So, you know, it's just to facilitate that sell-off of our country, you know, or what we've created with our tax dollars.
So we wouldn't need that bank, but would we keep the Bank of Canada to keep the economic structure going, or?
Of course. But here's something else that I'm working currently on. There's several things that I'm working on right now. I'm creating an act of union because that's up most important, and I'll leave April to answer about that in a few moments. The Bank of Canada is all that we need. We need to start using it as it was intended to, and make a country of this place is of the utmost importance. So if I want to leave the floor to April for a moment, and she can talk about what's coming up in our basket. Yes, I'm working on the Act of Union, and I was about to say that I'm also working in parallel on a new monetary policy. This is a big part of the, let's say, new Canada that we're working on. But April knows a little bit because we spoke this afternoon. So what's our next step, April, within the next 2.5 months, if you'd like to answer about something?
Okay, so step is the reading of the Constitution and agreeing and signing on to it. That'll come in June in Manitoba, and this will help us go forward with our Act of Union and start the de jure.
And about the publication in the Canada Gazette that I spoke to you about? We're going to publish the letter patent. Yes.
Yeah, the letter patent, yes.
All right, just to complete on that, we're basing
You have a letter?
the new Canada on the old model that came from Britain. There's a major difference in what we have done. I said to you that currently Canada is a de facto corporation, a sole corporation, posing as government. So the only difference, because we don't want to stir shit more than necessary, we are basing our action on this document. This is what we're going to read and sign for, of course, with a king at the top, to link with the previous program that we broadcast here on Freedom Free for All last December. And the only major difference, to answer my own question, is between a sole corporation. We replaced that by a non-registered public society. This is the only major difference. So in other words, it's just a a little, just like if you were having a party at your place, you don't make people sign to come in. I mean, for as long as you don't destroy the house or do stupid thing, you're welcome to my party, have a little drink, enjoy the music, have fun with the other guests, and once the party is over, you are free to go through the door as you came in. So basically, this is where we stand, and I'll take this occasion to invite every watcher here, every people who's going to watch this live or later on, and even you people there in the studio at Freedom Free For All, to jump on the boat with us. I mean, I cannot create a country on my own. This is why I have people like Maureen and April and Paul with me. These are highly intelligent people, highly educated people. They didn't need me to educate them about every small detail of life. I just needed to put them on the right track, and off they went by themselves. I remember when the first time I met Maureen, I presented to her the Constitution, and she was like, "Oh my God, we've got a Constitution." And from that point on, she probably read it, how many times have you read that document, Maureen? 3 or 4 times now?
At least.
At least, and then you jump on the train for the track that I showed you. You jump on our boat, and then you remember, when was it? Last month? What did you translate with me last month? What have we translated together?
Oh, we worked on the Royal Claim of Rights, and that was a document that was published in April of 2017, and it was published in French. And I thought what we needed to do was to put that document into English so that we can share it with a wider audience. So that document has recently been published in English.
Are you getting any feedback from any of your peers in Alberta, Maureen?
Well, there's certainly a lot of skepticism, and that's because many people haven't done the homework that we've done.
Right,
so take a look at the Constitution and see what it says the government should be doing and compare it to what actually the government is doing. And look at the Comer report. And
so basically trying to educate people on those
There's so many documents
facts
available. Another good source is Walter Kuhl, K-U-H-L, who was an Alberta MLA. He's published many documents and was a constitutional expert as well. And all of the things just line up that Jeff is saying, that we were never confederated. Canada,
and what about you, April?
Independent.
April, have you had any feedback from people in your association? And I believe you're in Saskatchewan. Is that right?
Yeah, I'm in Saskatchewan. You know, I think people are scared. We've been led to believe so many things. It is a huge thing to impact and get the actual information. I'm on my 4th reading, Maureen, too, and there's some things that I scratch my head and have to rethink, okay, is that what we're looking at, how something is de facto in our government? And, you know, there's so much information out there that I think it's mind overload for people.
Yeah, I agree. I think that, though, the important thing for us to consider is the KISS principle, which is keep it simple, stupid sort of thing. And I think that what we need to do is explain to people why this de facto government is not working in our best interest, or at least how, illustrate how it is not working in our best interest.
That's exactly what Crazy Crow in the chat said we need to unite, educate them, and get them involved so we can have a country we deserve for the future generations. So I guess that kind of ties into my next question, which is Jeff or anybody else on the call. What is the grand jury? What is Canada de Jure Canada? What do they need? What do they need? What do you need? Like, do you have all positions full right now? Do you need more positions?
Actually, I'll let Paul answer that one. He's well aware, and he's in the middle of it. So, Paul, who are we missing?
We're missing someone for Nova Scotia, Manitoba, and British Columbia, going from east to west, and for lieutenant governors for those provinces. And I'm working on trying to build a legislative assembly in Ontario, and the grand juries. I'm hoping to it would be nice if I could have it all lined up for the Constitutional Convention in June. We need this done by then. This is like our that's when we're going to kick this off.
So part of getting a job is knowing the job description. So what would the job description be of the governor or lieutenant governor?
At the moment, I would like
document.
Yes, that's to point at the Constitution. Exactly what I was about to. Thank you, Paul.
This is the English version. Can you see that's
yes.
The Constitution Act of 1982 to 1867 to 1982. So, and that's you can get that off of the Justice website, and the PDF is there. Download it, print it off, bring it to Staples for $12, and an hour later you got this. With the hardcover, and we got clear on the top here, and it's a binding on it.
Is it pretty thick?
It's 85 pages long.
That could stop a bullet.
Yeah,
22.
one side only. It's going to be only 44 if you print both sides. So yes, to answer your question first, and how this is going to happen, I'd like to invite Maureen. Remember, I talked to you about the closing the circle this afternoon. About how it's going to happen for the signature?
For sure.
Would you like to explain about that?
So what we need to do, and I'm sorry, but I can't hear Paul's conversation, so the computer's playing tricks with me again. So I'm not sure if I might repeat then.
Maureen, could you move your camera a little bit? We're getting half your face.
Yeah, pull your camera down, please. Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. So the question was to close the circle. So what we need to do is get a representative from each province to attend our constitutional convention in June. At that convention, our goal is to have everybody sign on to the existing Constitution Act 1867 to 1982. This will be an interim document to get us started. Once we've signed on to that act, we'll also draft a bill that will explain kind of the process for amending that constitution, and then we'll have those documents published in the Canada Gazette. When we do that, then we're sort of official, I would say, and our job then as lieutenant governors would be to bring this information back to our home provinces and start to build a legislative assembly. So the first legislative assembly would be an interim or de jure legislative assembly. And the whole purpose of that would be to oversee the election of a real true structure. So everybody that's going to participate in the de jure government is going to be free and voluntary people who wish to make the country better. And once we get everybody in place, then we can get everybody on board and get the buy-in of the people, then we can start to put together a real structure.
Cool. That's great. So you said there's a convention in June. I take it that it'll be at the Bohemian Grove? No, I'm joking.
That's in California. Yeah, right. I wanted to do that on the moon, but apparently the Earth is flat, so there's probably no moon. But you know what? Let's not get into that rabbit hole. But as Maureen said, it's very important to get one free person representing their province with the wish of refederating this country or federating it, since it was never done properly. And from that point on, we can start working on the government structure. Before that, it's a waste of time to do anything else, because I do agree that maybe this is not the best constitution in the West, but it's the only one that we've got now. And if we're starting, like I said a little bit earlier, to write our own, which is not that complicated of an exercise, then there will be accused of shoving down our own rule down the people's throat. I do want to avoid that. We need to do it in a way in which the de facto structure goes out, but at the same time, nature has an aura, a void, so we need to fill that void. So how do we fill it? With people of good intent, like April and Paul and Maureen and other, because they're not alone. But it's getting late on the East Coast, so we couldn't get people from Nova Scotia or New Brunswick to get on with us tonight. And hopefully we're going to get someone tonight, if I can make that call again.
Well, we do have someone in the chat. We have someone in the chat called Crazy Crow says, I'm on board for Ontario Grand Jury and de jure governance. So,
well, then, Crazy Crow, you need to address with Paul Chauvin, because he's right now the candidate for the seat of Lieutenant Governor for Ontario. We do need to do other position that's going to come after June, but right now we need one volunteer for British Columbia, Manitoba, and Nova Scotia to get on with us, which are willing to do a country called Canada. And what's our game? This is our game, the Constitution. So there's no surprise, there's no hidden agenda, there's no plan for us. None of us gets paid, so I'm not promising the moon to anyone.
No pensions?
Anyway, the
No
earth is
$100
flat,
million
so
pensions?
there's probably no moon. Oh no, I said that earlier. But sorry about that. That's an older joke. So yeah, we need one person for Nova Scotia, Manitoba, and British Columbia right now. So one in the west, one in the middle, one in the east. And let's little doggy. Let's say that we're going to play the game of Canada the way it's supposed to be. Before that, the rest is just a joke. We've got a de facto structure right now. There's no possibility of anything legal, lawful, or constitutional, because they're not legal, lawful, or constitutional. So if you're expecting anything from them, you're just a fool.
So Jeff,
the
where can our
best thing
viewers
that I got out of them was freedom of association. That's the best thing that I got. When I said to them, "You're de facto," I don't want to have anything to do with that. They have to respect it, because it applies whether or not there is a constitution. So that's the only thing. But do you get justice out of that? No.
Where can people contact you? People that are watching this either live now tonight, or if they're watching this later, where can they contact you? Is there an email? Is there a Facebook group? Is there something that they can contact you?
I'll let Paul answer with that, and to make sure, because he's the one in Facebook. I am not on any other network than YouTube for myself. So, Paul?
Yeah, I set up some Facebook groups. There's the de jure Canada, and apparently there's two of them, but there's one with the same flag that you see when you come onto the as the picture. That you could contact us there. But that's a national group. It's a public group, and we have the working groups that are. They're all working groups, but the real work is going to be done in the provinces. That's where we're going to have to create the legislative assemblies. I'm kind of strict with the post, because I don't want any de facto antics in there. I want to stick to basically educating people on the fact of the matters and have a better understanding of what is actually happening to them now, and what we could have, and things like that. And at the same time, trying to help teach people how to deprogram other people out of this idea that we have something that's really it's like we're plugged into a matrix, and we got to basically unplug ourselves out of this matrix that they put us in. And
Matrix is
start a new show. The puppet show here that they got for us, it's not working for us. It's obvious now, unless you live under a rock,
the Matrix. The Matrix. Let you said the Matrix is exactly what it is. We've got about 25 minutes left of the show. What I'd like to do is I'd like to do one quick article. We'll talk about this article, and then we'll have a quick break, and then we'll come back and we will do the overdrive, which is where we'll get some questions in there, and we can speak a little bit more about what your plan is for 2019, 2020. The reason why I said we live in the Matrix, and I agree with you, is because I've got an article from the Globe and Snail here, and it says the title is "Foreign Espionage of Canadian Research, a Risk to National Interest, CSIS Warns." This is from October 30th, 2018. Not that one there, Adam. It's the other one. But they're ultimately the same thing. It's the same article saying how we've got foreign espionage. Canada Spy Services warning Canadians research of, quote, of interest to foreign states whose exploitation of such work poses threat to Canada's national interests. Now, is this just fraud? Is this just part of the propaganda, or is this real? Is there something that's actually a threat to the current authority system in Canada? Open question to anybody.
You lose them?
CSIS. Right when I mentioned CSIS, this is just, it's unreal. I don't know where they went, but now they've dropped off the call, and
it's kind of like when we were interviewing Mrs. Smallstorm,
Yeah, so
everything,
Jesse, can you go check
goes
back
into
and
the
just see if
crapper.
there's those CSIS agents gnawing at our wires again? Because maybe they did something back there. But anyways, it's funny because this article talks about how this foreign espionage, CSIS warns. This is the same CSIS that will put a pressure cooker bomb with RCMP.
Yeah.
And
and it's admitted that it's a fraud.
Yeah. We saved everybody, right? So here they've got, it just seems like every year we get the same thing. CSIS is warning us of foreign governments, and it's usually like the Chinese government that they want us to divide ourselves against us and the Chinese, and to create the idea that the current authoritative government is real. And I think that's part of the matrix that Paul was talking about. It's part of the deception. It's part of it's the whole Trump ideology to get us back into statism, to get us back to vote for change.
It's not working well.
and I clearly see it, and I'm sure the guys from the Jure Canada and the grand jury, I'm sure they see that as well. Adam, do we have them on yet, or have they come back on?
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, we can hear Paul.
Paul's back.
Okay.
I was CSIS. Can you hear me? Yeah, my internet was shut down for a brief moment.
Weird. Right when I brought up the article on CSIS, you guys
exactly what I thought. I said he's talking about CSIS going to get disconnected, and of course he did. So I am being watched closely, monitored. I know there's no freedom on the internet whatsoever.
So
we're
Paul,
paying
were
to be
saying
spied on, and don't forget that the United States are the people who, actually DARPA invented the internet.
Yes.
So you're talking about being spied on. You're being spied on directly into your home. And next thing, they're going to bring 5G, so they're going to cook you from... exactly. Someone saying in the chat, Sweetie Squad said, divide and conquer, Sun Tzu, the art of war. We've been at war for 2,500 years, and you've been naming China. Let me remind everybody that Canada is officially at war with China since 1952. Have you had enough of war now? If you don't trust me, there's only been a ceasefire on the border of South and North Korea. That's all there is. We're at war officially. You like war? Because we're in it. Yeah. We've been at war with Afghanistan. What did Afghanistan did us as arms? So we go and send our troop there. I was a military myself. On my shoulder, it said national defense, not international offense for the Rothschild and the international banking cartel to control the opium trade. And so after that, the United States are crying to the wolf because there's apparently a problem with the opioid crisis. I mean, you went into Afghanistan. That's the triangle of opium in the world. It's been like that for a long time, and now you're crying that you're having
Afghanistan
an opium
because
problem.
they hated our freedom.
Let me laugh.
Yeah. Well, we're going to go to a quick break. We're going to have a quick little video here. I think is it the Rocco one?
Okay, so we have a little video here from Rocco Gladiani. Gladiani. I can never pronounce that.
Rocco Gladi.
Rocco Gladi.
We'll be back and we'll finish up with some of your questions.
And so, as Anne said, the Bank of Canada was primarily created in 1938 as a public bank to provide low and interest-free loans to the federal, provincial, and municipal governments, provided they were paid back in the next fiscal year. Maximum with the federal budget, 30%. Maximum with the provincial budget, 25%. When it was created, they could also provide directly to the municipal governments. During the post-war years and into the 60s, the provinces started to complain, saying the municipalities are our creatures. Municipalities are governed by provincial law.
Somebody isn't hearing.
Oh, I'm sorry, who's not here? Hearing. Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. So they removed the ability of the federal government to provide the interest-free loans directly to the municipalities. Now, that's ironic because after that, the evolution of constitutional law in Canada recognized the federal government's spending power, and the spending power to equalize services across the country was embedded in Section 36 of the Constitution Act 1982 in terms of the transfer payments. Section 36 says that the First Ministers are required to have a meeting every so often to ensure that Canadians across the country are getting comparable services at comparable levels. Not an exact science, but so that somebody in BC is not dying because they can't get a hospital while you have a Cadillac service in Ontario, for instance. So there is nothing stopping now the federal government sending the municipalities directly interest-free loans so long as it comes out of its 30% loan from the Bank of Canada. So basically, the first part of the challenge to this court action is to force the government to do what it's required to do. It's not as if we're trying to create a new law. The law has never changed since 1938. The government has simply, since 1974, chosen to ignore the law and chosen as a blanket absolute policy never to again give low or interest-free loans to the government of Canada and the provinces. Well, in constitutional terms, that's called abdicating your constitutional duty to govern. You can't do that. What's more atrocious and egregious is the fact that not only have they relinquished or abandoned their constitutional duty to govern, they've handed it over to foreign private interests. And that's a relinquishing of sovereignty. The Honorable Paul Hellyer, some of whom some people in this room know, who's the Dean of the Privy Council of Canada, he was a cabinet minister under the government of Louis Saint Laurent, is also a member of Comer. He calls this giving over Canadian sovereignty over banking to private European bankers treason. Now, while I've never said it's treason, I find it very difficult to argue with Mr. Hellyer over the point.
So we're back, and you have a few questions from the chat line. Is that
yeah,
right,
well,
Paul?
before we get to the questions on the chat, I want to finish up this overdrive section with Jeff. He has a special consideration with respect to the King of Canada.
Yes, it is important to understand that what we're doing, we're using the previous model. It needs to be government by consent. This is why we're not stirring the shit more than we need to. We're using the previous model. So the very first thing, and then talking about shit, can only follow gravity. It goes from top to bottom, right? Unless you're trying the other way around, but you're going to have a problem. So the very first thing that we needed to do was a royal claim of right to get the crown out from the Westminster's hands. So we've done that. We've written to Westminster 2 years ago. That was in almost 2 years ago, actually over 2 years ago. Now we're in March. We're at the end of March. So at the beginning of March 2017, we wrote to Westminster. We claimed the crown. There was no opposition. So finally, on the 1st of July 2017, sorry, I don't want to be mixed up, we went to Ottawa at 9 in the morning and we did a crown ceremony for the very first King of Canada. Now, that may sound like it is disturbing news, but it is actually a fact. It's available on my own channel. We made that claim. We did the crowning ceremony, and I want to remind all people that the beauty of the thing is here in Canada, the king or the crown has only one power and one power only. It's to employ every other public servant on behalf of the people of Canada. The king is a public servant. He's so under the order of the people. The way the king received his order is through common law court. Just like the grand jury or the king's bench, the queen's bench. So first we made the claim, second we crowned, and third he had to name a first officer, which is known in the Constitution as Governor General, and she's the person who employs the Lieutenant Governor, and then the Lieutenant Governor oversees the Legislative Assembly, which oversee all the other public employees. So all these beautiful people are working for you. As public servant, they are human, just like Paul and Maureen, and they're not corporated, and they will do their best to set up a de jure government. We have not made any promise to anyone, of course, because we don't control we don't control the Bank of Canada as of now. We don't control the RCMP. They're all de facto structure for the moment. So we need your help to join in the ship of de jure Canada, regardless of the de facto corporation. They're going to get out when they need to get out, and it's not of our concern. If you're looking for us to jail everybody, well, you're more of a problem than a solution. It's not going to work, and we will not, in our case, put the cart before the horse. That means that we will not write a new constitution. I agree that we probably could come up with something better than this document if we all put our backs into it. But right now we have an emergency situation. It is a national emergency, even though Canada was not properly formed in the first place. It's now up to us, the people. So if you want to join in and be what we could call, even if you're a if you want to be father of the Federation of Canada, please be my guest. Welcome to join in it. And I'll tell you something about Quebec, where I'm from. If you didn't notice, I have a French accent, so I am from Quebec originally. They are way ahead of everybody else. They already have their lieutenant governor for almost 2 years now. They have created their legislative council. They're getting ready to supervise an election. So they're way ahead of everybody right now. So Quebec is ready to get into the Federation of Canada for the first time by and for the people. They have been fooled, and I want to put emphasis on that. The people of Quebec have nothing against the people of Canada. They have been fooled just like everybody else by the de facto corporation, mainly the Bar Association, but there's a bunch of corrupted corporations, just like SNC-Lavalin and many more. They're not alone, which are behind the scene, which are pulling the string, and we need to put an end to it, because the crown that we've claimed in 2017 has an expiry date of July 2019, which is in just about 2 months. And if we are not able to get 10 people, so one per province, only one per province, to get on and show an interest for the Federation of Canada, well, guess what? You'll be stuck with the de facto corporation and the lie. So you're going to get served more of the same, more injustice, more house seizing, more arrest on the side of the highway, pretending they're a peace officer when they're not.
Yeah.
And we're going to yield, and everybody here, I'm going to speak on behalf because I already know what they think of it. We are ready to not form the country because it's not been formed. We're not going to stand in the way of the will of the people. If you want to get a de facto fascist corporation, well, you're on for a ride. That's exactly what we've got. We are here. We've been taken over. We've been lied, fraud, manipulated. We've been destroyed. There's nothing they haven't done to you. They're vaccinating your children when they're out of the womb. So you know what to expect. So otherwise, if you've had enough, one person only per province, one free soul willing to federate this country with us, welcome. We're only missing 3 provinces now, and to put it on the safe side, we may need someone from Newfoundland. And I say may with some reserve. We have someone currently. It's a little bit hard to speak on his behalf, and it's hard to reach him. So we may need 4 people right now, but we have 6 other good willing people. April from Saskatchewan. Alberta's ready to get in the bandwagon with Maureen. Ontario's getting ready to be in it through Paul. We have another Paul from Quebec. We have New Brunswick.
So let me get this straight.
Yes.
So what you need is a lieutenant, a governor for each area. Is that the prerequisite?
Yes, but
what else is compulsory?
Yes. Say again.
Just that.
What else is compulsory?
Nothing for the moment, and just
That's
like Maureen said, it's going to happen on a 2-level factor. First, a free soul sign is willingness to be part of Canada from each province, and soon after that, maybe the following minute after he's put his signature freely and willingly as a citizen or a human, I prefer to use the word human, then we're going to form the de jure government, and this person, the same person, is going to be nominated to become the lieutenant governor, so representing the de jure structure in their province. All these beautiful people, the 10, are going to make their oath of allegiance not only to the people of Canada, but also to the de jure structure, so that means to the Governor General, and the Governor General is going to make her own oath to the de jure king, and that's how we get Canada formed. And like I said, we have no plan. You want to know what we're doing? This is the game we play. This is the game you've been lied to for the past 100 years.
We need some pictures in that book. There's too much print. I want to see pictures. I want to see pictures. But I agree with 100% what you said. And almost to me, it seems like what you need to get it out there. You need to broadcast it, because there's a lot of people in Canada that are really politically active. A lot of people in Canada are pissed. People like Brad. They're pissed. They're choked. They get to see the same thing over and over. They get screwed all the time. And so I know firsthand that there's people on the peripheral that want to help.
See some change.
They just don't know how to get to you. So it's
then let me tell you real straightforward with my bare face, no lies, we don't do politics. So get that out. It's the Legislative Assembly and the Member of Parliament who do politics. Here, the people that you see here, including myself, we do law, or legislative if you prefer, but we don't do politics. And what law are we doing? This one. There's no other law. This is a supreme document, and if this does not apply properly, there's no reason for me to go check in the Bank of Canada status or whatever, the criminal code. No need for do that. To do that, to speak properly. We do only one law. Constitution is our key word. We're using this one because we have nothing better, and we don't feel like writing a new constitution. But we recognize that there will probably be, in the future, a need to write a new constitution. But the constitution does not belong to the government. It belongs to the people, and it is in it that the people will find protection against tyranny.
That's right.
And that at least gives you a basis from which to work from.
Yeah.
Yes. And we're looking for a government by consent, or else you get the de facto corporation that you've already had, to which I could put my hands onto my hands into the fire about that. You probably didn't agree, but right now you have a choice. For the first time in history, people, and I've studied history from the Roman Empire till today. I have a master's degree about that. You are being given a real choice. We are people. I don't have any hidden agenda. I was a military prior. I did have a hope to serve the corporation. I've been liberated on medical discharge, honorable discharge, and I owe them nothing. So I am a free person right now, offering you to be free as well if you dare to take it. So welcome.
Yeah.
To the de jure Canada, or else the de facto corporation. You know about it.
That's all. We don't. Let's not talk about them too much, because we talk about them too much, and that gives them power. I'm going to go to a couple.
Exactly.
Sorry, what's that again, Paul?
They agree.
That's exactly. The more we talk about it, the more we pay attention to it. And that's basically, the more we start doing something like this, the more they're going to act up and try to get our attention. So. We have to just ignore them and do what we need to do, which is to create a de jure, legitimate Canadian constitution for ourselves.
That's exactly what Organic.
Kicking this off.
That's exactly what Organic Mechanic said. He said, "We all need to join this team!" ! We need to take our country back out of the clutches of the United Nations, and I agree to that. Blackie Maxwell says, "Once a person commits to this movement, we have to stay committed. This is our opportunity to take back what was rightfully for the people." Woo! I could hear
exactly.
Becky saying
Can
that.
I answer to the previous commentary by any chance?
Sure.
Here's something you may have missed because it was published on my own channel. Here's a public proclamation that I would like to read to you. It's very, very short, especially the English part. It's about 6 lines. Can I share that with you?
Yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead.
All right, I'm going to share my screen with everybody so you get to see what I am about to read, and I've got good news about, I'm going to read it. So share screen. Click on this one, share. So here's what I'm reading. On this day of grace of January 30, 2019, by the royal prerogative entrusted to me and by order of Denis Ier, King of Canada de jure, I hereby declare the participation of Canada in the private organization listed below invalid as signed by the de facto government. United Nations, here, NATO, so the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, International Monetary Fund, Bank of International Settlement, and the World Bank. Order is given to you to obey immediately. That was signed by Angèle Prince, Governor of Canada de jure, on July 1st, 2017. And I will add on to that, you people that I've just listed here are invited to quit Canada as early as you can before we come after you. You're out of the game. Thank you.
Awesome. That's great.
It was signed by the de facto people, so it's not valid. It's not really an order. It's just a statement of truth.
Yeah,
We don't
absolutely.
want
And I think a lot of people agree with that.
to
We
be
saw
part
that.
of the United Nations. I don't want it as a person, as a human. Sorry, not person. I'm not a person. I'm a human.
But we saw that with the migration compact. Most Canadians did not want it, and Trudeau just pushed it through because it's the UN's agenda.
Yes.
Becky Maxwell also says waking up the people is the problem. Some of them, or they don't want to hear the truth.
I'll
Heidi,
answer to that as well. We don't need to wake up the million of sheep which are asleep under Prozac and various vaccination. All we need is 10 intelligent, educated citizen or human. Once again, let's replace citizen by human, who are willing to do the right thing, and then we'll have the mass of the people, what I can call the sheep. They're going to follow. They're going to follow whatever is presented before them. And if they're given the choice. I don't want to see about that. I am for freedom. I'm a freedom lover. I would like to get a referendum going through Canada, but people are scared of change and the unknown, and they're going to think of us about being changed on unknown, and what they're going to do, they're going to vote back for Trudeau. So we're not waiting for 36 million people to wake up. I can barely have 10, one per province. Remember, that's all I need. In 2 years in which we've been acting into that, I'm still missing 3 people. One from British Columbia, one from Manitoba, and one from Nova Scotia. And besides, there's another factor. There are traitors among the people who are willing to steer us back into a wrong discussion or into a wrong direction. We're not going to be fooled by that. This is our Constitution. This is the name of the game. We're not changing a line into that, except what I said earlier. We're replacing the de facto corporation by a non-registered public society. That's the only change we're making.
well, that's great. Last comment was Heidi. She says, "Incredible!" I could hear her screaming it. She says,
Thank
"Seems
you.
many people are waking up. Thanks for all your efforts." And I've got 3 questions here. I want to direct this first one to maybe Maureen. If she wants to answer it, or maybe April, or maybe both of them. Becky says, "Do you think rallying is doing any good? Are we waking up the people? Something has to get in the people's attention. I believe the convoy was it, or I was wrong." So, do you think rallying and doing what we're doing is any good?
I think it was good for me because it brought me connections. I was already awake.
There you go.
I think it's good in that if you follow the Yellow Vest movement and review the articles that are posted on their website, they help you to understand all of the destruction that the government has brought about. But there is a lot of divisiveness within that organization, and that's really unfortunate because in order to make change, we all need to be united.
Yeah, well, I thought that the Yellow Vest brought a lot of information to the table, which is valuable.
Yes, for sure.
To educate people. Now, April, what was your experience with the Yellow Vest? Were you involved with that at all, or?
Well, the convoy, I believe, did help unite us. And it, showed perseverance that people really wanted this change, or, wanted to instill change to others, and kind of be the mentor that there are people willing to stand up for others. Yeah. And I was involved just in conversation, and like Maureen, I got followers of it and was able to educate them on what was really going on.
Excellent.
A little bit more in depth
Yeah.
of, like the migration pacts and what they were doing to us, and how the government is really not our government.
Right.
In reality,
Right.
it's not.
It's kind of like, with some people, it's kind of like turning a light on when somebody's asleep, and they're like, turn the light off, I don't want to hear this, and you get that sort of a reaction. But I think
you didn't brew the coffee first. You need to brew the coffee first so that they smell the coffee.
But there are
and then
people coming into awareness at different levels, and I think giving them
True.
a venue to share information, if we can all, keep cool heads.
I also think too, like, there's other groups. It's not just Yellow Vest. There's RIC. There's, to me, I kind of see it as almost an army structure. I mean, you got the people on the ground, the Yellow Vest. You got the RAC and other members that want to start referendums, and then you got us that can instill those referendums. So I kind of see it as a military tactic, if you will.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, I was listening to what's his name? Mark Passio. Mark Passio. I was listening. That's his name, right? Mark Passio. Anyways, I was listening to a video of his not too long ago, and he said something that kind of quirked me, and it was like, he said there needs to be a spiritual awakening, and that process is happening now in order to create this massive revolution. So, Paul, what do you think? Do you think that's true? Do you think there needs to be some kind of mutual spiritual revelation or something?
I've been trying to put that one. He's got a 9-hour seminar on natural law, and I recommend everybody watch that one, because it's like there's so much truth in there. But there's going to be something that's going to in there that's going to probably not make you look at yourself totally differently than what you previously looked at. Because, like, seriously, it's all about truth. Natural law is based on truth.
Absolutely.
And that's it. And I'm gonna post that again in a group after this. And it's something. You may not be able to sit down and watch it in one sitting. You may have to come back to it, but that's the good thing about YouTube. When you go back to the movie, it comes back right back where you left off, and it's worth watching right to the end. And this guy here, he's got all kinds. In fact, he's got one about the Matrix there, Decoded, a seminar about that and how it correlates with what it's. He's the kind of person that can help wake up a lot of people, and he's good stuff to watch. There's a lot of good people out there that put a lot of good stuff out there, and I try to put those on our group so we can educate everybody.
What is that video that you're suggesting?
It's a seminar on natural law.
Mark Passio.
Yeah,
Mark Passio.
Mark Passio. Natural law. You could Google that up right now. Mark natural law Passio. Poof, you'll get it.
Yeah, I've seen it.
It's a 9-hour. It's almost 9 hours, but it's well worth the watch. The whole thing.
PASSIO. And I believe that learning your rights, learning this information, is the most valuable tool that you can do against the New World Order, against anything. It's for your own personal freedom. Like, I take a look at you, Jeff, and you're a legal beaver. Like, you understand a lot of law. You understand the language of law. You can see clearly. We've had Dean Clifford on the show. We've had Rob Menard, David Kevin Lindsay. And these are gurus that have kind of taken their battles, taken their hits, done their time, and now they're on the side doing other things. And now there's more people stepping up, like grand jury.
Well, I have, if you allow me, I have good news about Robert Menard, grand jury, and Paul can speak to it. I've recently spoken several times over the last 3 months with Robert Menard, and he's getting ready, if he agrees, because we're still in talking about it. He is actually going to be holding a grand jury on behalf of the people of Canada in Ontario. We're still talking about it, and he's going to get back into the loop. So I recently met Robert Menard. I'm very happy that I've done that. I think he's done a lot of good job. So is Dean Clifford. He happens to live in Manitoba. So Mr. Dean Clifford, if you ever happen to listen or watch this Freedom Free for All broadcast, we need someone from Manitoba. And I have listened to your teaching, and especially the last word you've said on Freedom Free for All here, fuck them, let's do our own game. And that's exactly where I got my ass kicking, or my Kickstarter, if you prefer.
Yeah.
So thank you and I would like to take another moment to say thank you to Freedom Free for All. Of course, Robert Menard, as I just spoke about him, Dean Clifford, many other, just like Mark Passio, Maxwell Higgin or Max Higgin, many other, Charles Eisenstein, which has taught me about money, Rocco Galati. I would like also to thank Carl Edward Fleury from Alberta, which has made the convoy to Ottawa happen with other people. I don't know all their name. I would also like to take a moment to say thank you very much to a gentleman called Denis Paiement, which is Denis the First, King of the Canada de Jure, Angèle Prince, Governor of Canada de Jure. There are right now the two only de Jure people that I know of, but we have candidate for Ontario, Mr. Paul Chauvin right here, from Quebec, Mr. Paul Leblond. All his legislative council, there's 24 of them, so Quebec is way ahead of everybody. I'll also like to say to Mr. Régent Trottier, Lieutenant Governor for New Brunswick, Miss Maureen Weeres, same thing for Alberta. April Cymbalisty, hereby present for Saskatchewan, and I'm forgetting a few names, but thank you very much. And I'll also take a moment not to warn everybody that they're going to try to stir you down a lot of empty rabbit holes. There are still rabbit holes, one being legalese. There is no such thing as right. Right is for corporation. It's a commercial word. But you do have freedom if you dare take responsibility. Great freedom comes with great responsibility. If you want to see the natural or common law re-established, there's one law that applies to every human. It's very simple. It's so simple, it's mind-boggling. And it goes like this, is do no harm. This is the only law that applies to you, even in their actual system. So,
okay.
In the end, Canada has an history of being a kingdom. You've been lied about everything else. So this is where we're taking over the reign of our country, just like a cart and horse. You have reins to direct the horse. But if you choose to get off the cart, well, you're on for a ride, and they're going to direct you like the sheep or the herd of sheep that you are into the place where the slaughterhouse, actually. They've always done that. We've been at war for 2,500 years plus. So if you've had enough of the war game or of the Sun Tzu tactic, and especially if you ignore that we've been at war, you've lost to begin with. So I was born as a warrior. I served as a warrior or a Canadian military. I've understand that the first thing that goes down the drain in war is truth. So this is why the first article on top of the claim of royal right is universal peace for Canada. And please, let's come with us, or everybody that is here watching this live or afterward, come and play peace with us, please. I have enough of war.
Yeah, I think
that
you've
had enough of war too.
Yeah, I think a lot of people have had enough of war.
I should hope so.
I think a lot of people are on board with this. Like you said, we just need to get it out there. So Paul Kimber says, I have waited for this since Pierre's rule. Thank you, brothers. Yes, yes.
Lawyer, just like Mulroney, Chrétien, and all the rest of the lawyer.
They are and you're
more
not
liar than lawyer, so let's get rid of them.
Yeah,
Don't
so
trust a lawyer even.
So I just want to say thank you to Supra 244, Max Revolt. We got Paul Kimmer. We've got so many people. Sweetie Squad. We got Heidi. There's so many people on this chat today. I can't believe how many people are on there. If you're interested in this information, you got to connect with Jeff. You've got to connect with Paul. You've got to go to the De Jure Canada. It's CanadaGrandJury.ca.
Yeah.
That's the website.
Yeah.
But you could probably connect with them on Facebook as well. And also, I want to give a big shout out to the team here at Freedom Free for All behind the scenes, Jesse and Max. We got Brad, who came into the show. Yeah. We've also got Adam, who's in the back. He does all of the switching. We always have technical issues, and we've always got CSIS issues every single show, and Adam's the one that kind of does the duking in the back, getting them out. So I just want to thank Paul Chauvin. I want to thank everybody that's here on the show tonight, Maureen, and also April, and yourself, Jeff. I really appreciate you guys taking the time to be on the show, to express this, tell us what you need and what your vision of the future is, because like you said, I think people are done with war. Brad, are you done with war?
Yeah, and I'm also done with exploitation.
Any last questions, any last comments for you guys?
Good news for you, if you allow me.
Yeah, go ahead.
Under the de jure Canada, income tax is illegal, so there will be none, and interest are illegal because it leads to bankruptcy. So they are also illegal. They are illegal in the de facto system, but it's de facto, so they're going to do just about everything. So yes, income tax out, interest out.
Good.
Well, I don't
We've
pay
got
the
our
income
own
tax
bank
anyway, so it
interest
doesn't really
free,
matter. But
and we don't need your income tax.
But
that
anyways,
does not apply to corporation, by the way, only to human.
So
Well,
thanks so much.
yeah.
It's been a great show.
It's been great. And I guess that's the show for tonight.
That is the show. And like I said, we did a pre-show. We did a video that went up on Facebook. And it was, if you email us, the first 3 people that email us with at comments at Freedom Free for All, with the title of this show, speaking about what we talked about, you can get a discount on these beautiful Freedom Free for All shirts for $20. They're $30 online. And if you become a member, they're free, but you're not a member. Only there's a few people. Yeah. You've got to like the video. You've got to send us the message. So send us your message and we'll give you the t-shirt for $20. We've got a lot of them. And a lot of people actually bought them as of late.
Cool.
We've been selling quite a few of them. And I think that's what people want to do. They want to sport them around when they go to the store. They want to sport them around in town. People say, what is that FFFA? So it's a beautiful little product and it gets the name out there. So we support people like Jeff and Paul and everybody that's basically trying to create a new Canada, a new environment in which there's no war and no more corruption, just like Brad. That's why you're here tonight. So
That's right.
finish her off, Brad. Any last words?
Oh, I just think it's great to see that people are actually educating one another actively, and we're actually seeing some traction. We're actually seeing some people getting organized and realizing that we need to make change, and it's up to us to make that change.
Well, that's good. Actually, I just want to quickly say to the guests, do you have any last comments? Maybe let's start with the ladies.
I'm fine. No comments from this end.
All right. April.
Oh, yeah, sure. You guys can get a hold of us on Facebook. There's Jure for every province, like Paul said. And I welcome anyone to message me privately if they need and answer any questions that they have or want to know more. And yeah, we need people on board for this. So stay tuned. We're
Beautiful.
going to change Canada.
Excellent. And Paul?
It's going to require people. We can't do this alone. It's got to be done by we, the people. It's always been about that. They just never told us it was supposed to be us that was supposed to do this. They led us to believe that they could, do this, keep doing what they're doing. And we've been fooled. It's been a con. And it's time to find out that, okay, now we can be con, ha, 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 or let's move on. The joke's over,
Joke's over.
So,
Yeah.
And Jeff, the mastermind, any last comments?
Come and play the game with us. I'm a sailor, so I'm going to use a sailor word. Even if I'm retired, I'll say to you, welcome on board our ship, the Canada ship. It's up to you, the people. Like Paul said, we can't build it alone. There's not be a country of mine, and we need all the good soul, human, there to take your freedom. It's there. It was always there in front of you. So be free, and thank you, Freedom Free for All. I don't remember the formula you use at the end of the show, but it goes like that, something like that. Be free, whatever
free,
you say, Paul.
be
Usually.
free.
So
Right.
thank you.
Okay,
thank you.
thanks
Thank
so
you
much,
so
Paul.
much.
Thanks so much, everyone. Yeah.
And Jeff, girls.
So stay tuned.
Yeah.
Next week.
Yeah, why? What's happening next week?
I don't know. We got a show next
We
week.
got a show next week.
That's
Okay,
right.
that's good. Yeah. Stay tuned for next week, Freedom Free for All. Until then, be safe and be free.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
but
See you guys.
Welcome to the House of 1,000 T-shirts, where you will find unique T-shirts, graphic novels, and other swag brought to you by artists from around the world. Go now to houseof1000t-shirts.com.
CA, right? But